When humanity first entered the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, the gathered species expected to see warriors in armor, fleets hovering at the edge of the system, or perhaps some terrifying new weapon gleaming in orbit. Instead, what stepped forward were humans in plain suits, carrying thick binders, data slates, and something no alien had ever seen before: stacks of papers. At first, the Council laughed at the absurd sight, thinking this new species was too primitive or too slow to understand the pace of interstellar politics. But the laughter faded when the humans began to speak. They did not demand land, wealth, or tribute. They demanded clarity of law, fair trade, and proper procedure, quoting obscure articles from the Council's own rules that most species had forgotten existed. Meetings that normally ended in hours stretched for days, trapped in endless debates carefully guided by human voices. Every time an alien tried to push their agenda, a human delegate calmly raised a new clause, a new form, or a forgotten regulation that forced the room to stop and reconsider. By the end of the first week, alien leaders looked at each other in unease. They had expected soldiers, but instead, they were facing something far more patient and unstoppable, a species that could wage war with nothing but rules. The true power of human bureaucracy was revealed when a wealthy alien conglomerate tried to seize control of a human trade route. The aliens sent warships to block passage and demanded taxes from every vessel that carried Earth's flag. But instead of sending fleets to fight, the humans quietly submitted a storm of documents through 10 different interstellar organizations. Each paper carried flawless logic, cross-referenced with treaties and codes that even the oldest races had long forgotten. Within weeks, the conglomerate's fleet could no longer refuel because fuel rights had been suspended. Their crews went unpaid because their financial accounts were frozen for audit review. Docking bays across 3 sectors closed their doors, citing pending investigations tied to the endless human filings. The warships that once threatened Earth now floated powerless, their captains trapped in offices rather than on bridges, drowning in forms they could not understand. The galaxy watched in silence as the mighty conglomerate collapsed without a single shot being fired. What frightened the Council most was not the fall itself, but the realization that humans had not broken a law to achieve it. They had simply used the rules better than anyone else, and that made them unstoppable. As humanity's influence spread, the Galactic Council found itself entangled in something it could not fight: human paperwork. Entire armies that once marched without question now stalled in endless meetings, their supplies trapped behind legal restrictions carefully placed by Earth's diplomats. Criminal syndicates, who once thrived in the shadows of forgotten laws, suddenly found themselves audited, their assets frozen, and their ships grounded. Even the most ruthless warlords discovered that it was not plasma fire or orbital bombardments that broke them, but the quiet, patient pressure of contracts, licenses, and approvals that never seemed to arrive. The council chambers, once filled with fiery debates and bold declarations, turned into silent halls, where alien leaders sat in fear of speaking out, knowing a single misplaced word could trigger a flood of human filings that would bury their empires and rules. Each day, another nation came forward, not in battle armor, but in quiet surrender, simply because they could no longer move under the weight of human regulations. What unsettled the council most was how calmly the humans worked, never raising their voices, never showing anger, only smiling as they turned the very system the galaxy had built against its creators. The realization crept through the chamber like a cold shadow. Humanity had bound the galaxy not with chains of steel, but with invisible links of law, and once caught in that net, no one could escape. For the first time, the galaxy understood that Earth did not need soldiers to dominate. Their true weapon was patience, order, and an endless supply of rules. And in that quiet order, the Council itself found it was no longer leading the galaxy but trapped, struggling in the grasp of humanity's bureaucracy. When the largest alien empire in the galaxy finally stood against Earth, it did so with confidence born from centuries of conquest. They declared that no amount of human paperwork could stop their warships, and they swore they would never bow to rules written on paper. Yet humanity did not send a single fleet to challenge them. Instead, the humans unleashed something far more devastating. Every corner of the empire was struck, not with weapons, but with forms and regulations. Trade permits were revoked, shipping licenses suspended, and taxation laws enforced so tightly that even the empire's rulers could not move without signing documents they did not understand. Colonies that once supplied food were suddenly unable to export because of inspection delays. War factories sat silent as raw materials were held under review by interstellar committees humans quietly influenced. Even the empire's generals found themselves waiting in offices, buried in endless audits, unable to command their fleets because authorization codes were frozen. What made the siege unbearable was its silence. There were no explosions, no burning cities, only a slow suffocation of systems, an invisible war of rules that tightened until entire planets starved. The council watched in disbelief as the once mighty empire collapsed in less than a year, brought to its knees not by firepower, but by the weight of human order. And as the empire begged for relief, humanity gave none, proving to all that they had discovered a weapon more precise than any missile, more devastating than any fleet. The bureaucratic siege had shown the galaxy that humans could conquer without ever firing a shot, and from that moment onward, even the most defiant voices fell silent in fear. The fall of the Empire forced the Galactic Council to confront a truth they could no longer ignore. Humanity's bureaucracy was not just a tool. It was a weapon, and it was far more destructive than any plasma cannon or doomsday device. In a historic session, delegates from across the galaxy gathered to debate the unthinkable whether the act of paperwork itself should be restricted like forbidden weapons of war. Reports were presented of colonies that had starved not from siege engines, but from missing shipping approvals. Fleets had rusted in orbit because refueling rights were endlessly delayed. Economies had shattered under the weight of tax codes enforced with a precision no machine could match. And behind it all were humans, calm and polite, smiling as they shuffled another form forward, dismantling entire civilizations without ever drawing a blade. Some delegates whispered that this was worse than violence, because it was clean, quiet, and left no battlefield for heroes to fight upon, only a slow suffocation that no warrior could resist. Finally, with great unease, the Council voted to declare human bureaucracy an official weapon of mass destruction, placing it beside the most dangerous arms in galactic history. Yet even as the ruling was read, many leaders realized it was already too late. The humans did not need missiles or fleets. They had already conquered the galaxy's heart through rules that no one else could master. And as the human delegates calmly filed their victory reports, leaving the chamber in perfect order, a silent dread spread among the stars. For the galaxy now knew that Earth's most terrifying creation was not steel or fire, it was the endless patience of bureaucracy, a weapon that no defense could ever stop.